Oh, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Weekend Wrap brought to you by CrowCast. Not as happy as last week. Unfortunately, that was a bit of a heartbreaker. Thanks to everyone who's joined us on Discord and also on YouTube. I'm sure that you guys are feeling exactly the same as I am at the moment. And Mac, I'm sure you're feeling the same as well. How you going?
I was shattered, mate. I was really so shattered. I was so uptight and shattered. I had to take a bloody Valium afterwards. I was that uptight.
Yeah, it was a shocker. And you could see it happening a mile out, couldn't you?
I was looking at the time clock and just seeing, just proportionately, it's just moving away and away and away and away. And I thought they're going to get us.
Yes, unfortunately, look, inaccurate goal kicking again to start off with, and then just an unwillingness to take the game on when it mattered, both by the players and also by the coaching staff, Mac, in my opinion.
Big error, because what we were doing is not giving ourselves the opportunity to score and trying to hold on rather than actually trying to make it a football game. And there was also one really striking thing, which you probably noticed yourself. At our setup, so we were dominating the ruck, but they kept one midfielder back from the contest. And then we would scratch all of our bees to a hive, and they get the ball out to him, and Noble would raw pass on the pass every time. How long do you as a coaching staff, how many times do you fall for the same thing?
Well, and it was exacerbated by the fact that they dropped one off the contest and put him behind the ball, Geordie Dawson, towards the end there in the last quarter. So it was a very bad move, in my opinion, by the coaching staff. What we needed to do was actually crowd up the contest. We actually gave them an extra around the ball, and they were able to get it away. There's lots around the midfield to talk about tonight, Matt, because we got pantsed in that area, I thought. And, I felt like the whole club, players and coaches, lacked courage tonight.
I wouldn't say courage as much as belief, and in the sense that Collingwood just had that belief that if we keep boring away, we'll win it. Our belief was more, we have to defend like buggery to save it.
Yeah, belief is a better word. But I think you've got to show courage to instill belief. You've got to actually back yourself in, right? And I don't reckon the club, from the moment we went out there and we were shaky around the goals and all the rest of it, we seemed to lack the desire to win the game. We were trying not to lose the game for most of it. And you get those pokey little shots at goal from straight out in front. They are opportunities to win the game, and no one wanted to win that game tonight.
It looked that way. They probably would argue that that's not true, but looking from the outside, that's the way it came across.
Yeah. Anyway, look, it was a heart-stopping end to a pretty dismal round, I thought. Wasn't a lot to get excited about, was there?
No, there was. There's two games here that I'm going to give you one line for. They're that bad.
Yeah, no, I just not excited about this bit at all. So we'll be able to zip through it fairly quickly, I reckon, Mac.
I think so.
Let's go. So on Friday night, the Power inflicting a defeat on St Kilda, 83-76 by 7 points.
Well, I have to, I hate to say it, but it was a good win by the Power because they were absolutely slaughtered by Marshall in the middle, in the ruck, because they had some makeshift sort of ruck set up. But overall, it was mainly their midfielders that did the damage, and they got the ball up forward and scored. And look, I thought St Kilda had the game at one stage, but then Port Adelaide, to their credit, they did they did what we should have done. They took the game on to win the game, I think.
Yeah.
And that's why they got up and won it.
Yep, that's right. They didn't give in at any stage. I felt like St Kilda got shown up a bit. We saw what Brad Crouch is like under pressure. He reverted back to the norm after a few good weeks. His disposal was shocking.
Yeah. Well, it's never been the best, but when you're going well and you're beating the other side by 10 goals, you all tend to kick a little bit better.
Yeah. On the Saturday, the Lions cleaned up the Dockers by 48 points, 115 to 67. Dockers almost not worth talking about now.
No, the Dockers, they gave 2 first-round draft picks for Jackson. I raised that last week. I looked at him again this week. I'd give a second round for him, one second round, not much more. And they didn't have really much going for them. They had a couple of guys in the midfield who tried hard, but and a guy called Young who did pretty well. But really, the rest of it was just too good. Brisbane, their midfield just slaughtered them. Young Ashcroft, I suppose one of the highlights was Ashcroft's goal, getting the ball and kicking it while in midair from a tight angle. That was a hell of a goal.
Yeah, wasn't a bad effort. Wasn't a bad effort at all. The Giants getting up at the death over the Swans, 107 to 106. Really good win by the Giants there. The Swans be bitterly disappointed with that one.
Very similar to our game, really. It was Sydney where it was going well. They had the game in their keeping. GWS dared to try to win. And they were 4 goal down, and there wasn't all that much time. But they just kept on attacking mercilessly. Sydney did the wrong thing. They went on the defensive as well. And Green was quite magical in a couple of goals he got there in the last quarter. And they got up to. They did what. Unfortunately, what Collingwood did and got up by a point.
Yeah, Toby Green was immense at the death there. Just such a clutch player.
He is.
Yeah. The Bulldogs up by 29 in the end. Hawthorn stuck with them for a while, but couldn't get the Chocolates 94 to 65.
Yeah, well, Hawks were actually up by 3 points at half time, but Dogs hadn't really got going by that stage, and then their midfield, which is a pretty good midfield, started to take over. Ironically, Hawks' midfield had been dominating in the first half, but then Dogs got on top, and after that was bye-bye Hawks.
Tell you what, wouldn't have minded Will Day to come back to South Australia.
I was going to raise his name, yeah. He's only just starting his career as a mid. He's been a halfback flanker, gone to a mid. He's going to be an outstanding player.
Yeah, very, very good. Melbourne getting the Chocolates over North quite easily, 90 points, and it probably could have been more, 139 to 49. North Melbourne just over the last couple of weeks giving Clarko a bit of a reality check. Yeah,
my money comment there is that Oliver Petrarca and Brayshaw played well, and North Melbourne are in for a world of pain, in my opinion. They've only got the young boy Sheasel, maybe Hall, maybe McDonald, Steeble. There's nothing else.
They just don't have the cattle at the moment, North.
Yeah, I just want to raise that point, which I'll bring in at a later date to talk about the Tasmanian team.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, when you've got two sides, you get belted like this.
Yeah. Next game, speaking of a belting, Carlton 152 to Eagles 44, 108-point winners there.
9 goals to Curnow was the highlight of that game. I'm not worth talking about.
Oh, well, I mean, Curnow was a standout. He was just very, very good.
Yep.
I mean, we can talk a lot about West Coast, but it's going to get to the point where West Coast actually need to think about what they're going to do in the future, and I don't know whether Adam Simpson's got it in him anymore.
No, if you're going to talk about West Coast, I think he has to go. They have to get a coach that's going to be patient and do a total rebuild, and he's going to have to do it pretty quickly with the Tasmanian likely to come in about 3 or 4 years' time. So You've got to really start doing it right now.
Yeah, yeah. Um, what's the next one? Essendon and the Cats. Geelong getting up by 28 points. Didn't see this one today, but it seemed like Geelong had it in control for most of the game.
Yeah, Geelong skipped away for about a 6-goal lead at one stage, and but after half time, Essendon outscored them by a couple. And look, it was just a high-scoring game, ball flowing around all over the place, and Big Hawkins got 8 goals. Geez, he's a good. It'd be nice to have somebody like that. Yeah, I think it was just to Essendon's credit. They're not up there with the big boys, but they can play some good quality football at times.
Yeah, it just dropped out of the 8 too. The mid-afternoon game, we had... Whoops, what have I done there? Oh, well, that'll do. The Suns killing... I knew there'd be an upset on the Sunday, and I picked the other one. I picked the Essendon game, and it was the Suns that got up over Richmond by 24 points. Richmond just about gone, Mac.
Well, I'd made that conclusion about Richmond about a week ago, mate. So I actually picked the Suns, and you'd think though, they sold the farm to get Hopper and Taranto, but Cotchin looks like an old pensioner playing out there, mate. He should be told. No, seriously, they cannot play him. It's an insult to him.
He's done.
He is cooked. He's totally cooked, and look. I would think that they'll definitely be a bottom 4 team this year, the way they're going, and you wouldn't expect the coach to survive.
Well, I don't know whether they'll be bottom 4. There's a fair few clubs stinking it up at the moment.
You mean they've got good competition for that bottom 4?
Yeah. Wally, in the chat, we have gone back and forth on this the whole time. It's 10 minutes. I'm sure you can put up with it, or just maybe log in 10 minutes later. I'm not changing format again. Every time I drop off the round the grounds, people whinge. Every time I do it, people whinge. So we're just doing it, aren't we, Mac?
Well, we can do it again if he wants it. We'll go through it again if he wants.
All right, you got 2 minutes to talk about Tassie.
Well, I'm actually one of those that are against Tassie. Not so much in principle because of against Tasmania, but on the concept of bringing another team in without knowing for certain that's going to be financially viable and not creating another bloody legacy like we have in the Gold Coast and GWS. And there aren't enough good players now at AFL level. The top sides, they drain the good sides from the lower, good players from the lower teams. But you've got a couple of teams, 2 or 3 teams just full of, well, not AFL class players. And you're going to have another team that's going to come in. It's going to disrupt the whole bloody competition where they're going to have drafting is going to go out the window. So anybody planning a rebuild is going to get all stuffed up, and they'll become another. If you're near the bottom and when Tassie come in, you're going to stay there forever, I reckon. And so because with the drafting system, what will happen for the first 2 or 3 years, I'm just against the whole principle. We don't need it. We need less teams. We need more quality teams.
Well, I agree with you on that one, Macca. I'm happy for Tassie to be in. They should have been in earlier. They should have been in before Greater Western Sydney and Gold Coast, in my opinion.
Yes, yeah.
Because they're a football state, they're a foundation football state, and they've got a fantastic heritage, and they deserve to be in. That being said, the only way, in my opinion, they get in now is if we consolidate Victorian teams. And you and I both know that's not going to happen. No. And you and I both know that until they do consolidate Victorian teams, the standard of football is just going to continue to drop. And I agree, we're already diluting the talent in the talent pool, in my opinion. And this round this week shows exactly that. You know, there's a big difference between the good teams and the bad teams, and that divide gets bigger and bigger, and there's more teams stinking it up every season, and I just feel like we're not doing the game any favours at all as a spectacle and as a product by diluting the talent.
Yeah, and I can't see how they can pay their way, mate. I can't see how they can pay their way. There's not enough people down there.
Well, I mean, they're only building a stadium that's going to be about 25,000. So they're banking on, having a 25,000 crowd every home game. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to spend too much more time on it, but I agree with everything that you say, Macca. I'm glad for Tasmania that they're in. The way that it's happening is I've just got a lot of misgivings about it.
Yeah, well, I'm totally against it.
Anyway, look, before we move on, don't forget, if you're listening to us on Discord or on YouTube and you want to have something to say, get around the chat. We do have a couple of people with their hands up. We might actually just do the quick summary of the game, and then we'll get some people on. So Animal and Arab Child, you guys have got your hand up. I'll get you on in a moment. If anyone else wants to have a chat, we are live and interactive, of course. So feel free. So in the end, Mac, 7-16, 58, 23 scoring shots to 8-11, 59, 19 scoring shots, a margin of 1 point. They were in front for all of about, 2 minutes or whatever?
No, 1 minute. 1 minute.
1 minute, yeah. Bitterly disappointing.
Yeah, well, as they said, 20 seconds really, but where they were drawn with 1 minute to go, and then, we just blew it in the first quarter. I can't believe some of the absurd goals that we missed in that first quarter, and there were 3 set shots which are for a player of AFL standard that they should kick, and we missed those. There were others that were sort of running into goals and all that sort of stuff that we missed. When you look at the ones that we missed, I would say there's probably 6-7 goals for the game that should have been kicked by us that were an AFL standard player should kick every time.
So I'll put this to you, Mac. I've been thinking about this a little bit over the last few weeks, and with our bad kicking, I think we're the only sport, the only ball sport that excuses bad shooting, right? So whether it's shooting in basketball or kicking a penalty in soccer or whatever, we're the only team that tolerates it. And do you know why I think that is?
You tell me.
Because we have behinds.
Yes.
I think it's a subconscious thing that if you've got behinds, and I'll give you an example. In the NFL, they have kickers that can kick field goals from 40, 50 yards out, and they will hit 90% of them, right? 90% of them. And in fact, to be on an NFL team, you've got to be able to hit that sort of percentage, right? And not only have they got to kick it between 2 posts, they've got to also kick it over a horizontal post, right? So and that ball is notoriously harder to kick in the wind because it's more pointy. So I honestly think that one of the reasons why AFL players struggle to kick accurately and don't get burnt for it as much as they should is because we've got behinds. If you took away the behind posts, then I think that naturally players would become more accurate.
I think you're right, but it's never going to happen. The AFL just wouldn't do that. I know that. But then what you've got to do is build that into your kicking routine, right? You got to take the behinds out of the equation. Oh, you do. And what you have, it's all about belief, I think. When you line up and have a shot for goal, I mean, I was a greedy bastard. I never ever thought about missing the goals. I mean, so I did miss at times, but I never ever thought that I was going to miss it. And because that's just self-belief. And surely at that level, at AFL level, when you're going to have a shot for goal, when you can hit a bloke on the run 50 metres away and lob it so that he can run straight onto it, surely, you're picking a spot out there like that. Surely you can just run and kick straight through the ball and kick a goal. To me, it's unacceptable that they can't kick goals, and what it is mentally they're not tough enough.
Well, I'll tell you what else it is. It's poor technique, and it really, really, really annoys me. I'm a bit of a technique person.
Yes.
And if you have a look at every shot for goal that was missed from a set shot, every one of them, the player didn't run in a straight line.
Yeah, that is number one fault. Because the minute you do that, you're not necessarily going to be kicking with the sweet spot on your foot. You've got every chance of getting an edge of the boot one way or the other, depending how you run.
And look, as soon as you start going out to the right, you naturally have to hook the ball to bring it back to centre. Your brain is trying to do what you're telling it to do, but your body is actually not facilitating it. So you're in a position where you're always going to be crossed up. And yes, there are some players, like Buddy or whatever, that do the big loop around. But you look at someone like Darcy Fogarty, there's a reason that he doesn't miss. And there's a reason he didn't kick that. He didn't miss that drop punt last week, is because he just ran straight at the goals and swung his foot through the ball. And I hate to sound like a junior coach, but pointed his toe at the target. That's all you have to do.
I know. I actually use him as my model if I'm ever talking about a person kicking for goal, for the very reason you just said. He runs straight, he brings his leg through straight, and he points his toe.
That's right. If you run straight and you point your toe at the target, there is actually no way you can miss it unless you have an epileptic fit on the way through. Right? It's simple mechanics. And it really frustrates me. It really frustrates me that I see blokes. I mean, you can miss goals on the run, you can miss snapshots, all the rest of it, I get it. But if you've got a kick in the V from 45 degrees to 45 degrees in that V in front of goal, you just should not miss. That should be a 95% accuracy rate.
Yep, totally agree.
Yep. And, it frustrates me because it is a bit of a confidence thing, Macca, but because players, it gets in their heads and all the rest of it. But if you've got a solid routine and if you just go through your routine, then you'll kick the ball straight. And it is proven, because every other sport on the planet that involves putting a ball at a target would not tolerate the accuracy rates that happen at AFL level.
Yeah.
And not only that, but the name of our game is scoring, right? We're, along with basketball, we're the highest scoring sport there is. So shooting is at a premium, right? And having a set shot for goal is like having a free throw in basketball. And if you don't have an 80% free throw percentage, then you're not a good shooter, right, in basketball. You should have an 80% percentage in football as well.
Well, if you take it, there were two quarters in particular where we lost it. First quarter, we kicked 3-6 to 0-2. 9 scoring shots to 2. In the third quarter, we kicked 3-5 to 2-1. 8 scoring shots to 3. And when we go into a situation where we're vulnerable, it's just ridiculous.
And you can't just brush it off, because that had a key impact on the rest of the game. The fact that we weren't 6-3 at quarter time, we were 3-6. That had a key impact on the game, Macca. It shaped the way the rest of the game panned out. If you're 6-3 going into quarter time against the top team and they're 2 goals won or whatever the hell they were, then you've got a mental advantage of also giving yourself a bit of a buffer. We saw how valuable a buffer was against Hawthorn. If we'd have kicked less straight against Hawthorn, we wouldn't have had the buffer that allowed us to steal the game at the end, right?
Yeah.
It had a massive influence on the game, and it keeps the opposition in with a sniff. And the longer that goes on, the more confident they are that they can get back into it.
I also wonder how the game would have ended up if Butts hadn't decided, here, have a goal.
Yeah, that was a bit of a brain fart. A lot of people saying, why did Miller lead there? What Miller was actually doing was leading away from Brodie Smith, who was wider out, which is where the kick should have gone. I don't think he actually wanted the ball.
That's probably right.
Yeah. Anyway, look, let's hear from a couple of people. We'll get Animal on first and hear what Animal's got to say. Come on board, Animal. Make sure your microphone is off mute. Whenever you're ready, mate. Well, there he is.
Here he is.
take yourself off mute, mate.
Still on mute.
No. That's all. I'm going to send you back and get your microphone sorted out. We'll bring Arab Child in the meantime. Can't have dead air on the radio, can we? On the wireless, can we, Macca?
No.
Arab
Good,
Child,
mate.
how you going?
Good, how are you guys going?
Good, mate.
Good.
What do you got to tell us?
I think the game was lost because of our selfishness. It wasn't really most like the inaccuracy and stuff. There were so many easier shots, like Rochelle could have given to Keys, Ryan Kent could have given to Keys. There was just like so many where I was looking at, I'm like, there's a loose player right there. Why are you kicking to the side or like kicking it outwards? Just give it to someone that's closer that you know has a higher chance of winning. That I think was really what cost us.
It's a good point you raised, mate, because there are 3 occasions where Keith was on his own on near the goals, and that should have gone to him.
Yeah,
we lost by a point and missed about 6 easy shots. I know what cost us the game. You're right. There were times. I mean, look, there's always times like that. But if they're kicking them, then you don't care, right? It's only because they missed them that you care. The goals that weren't passed off, they should have been kicked anyway.
Do you think that our maybe assistant coaches could be stronger, especially like with Van Berlo and our forward coaches? I feel like there's something there where I just thinking maybe like we might need to get someone stronger in that position, or is that, I don't know. It just seems something is off between those 2 coaches, especially.
Which ones?
The forward coach and the midfield coaches.
Well, there's nothing wrong with the forward coach. James Riley has been very, very solid.
Mm.
I agree with you about Van Berlo, though.
Well, but why can't they kick straight? That's my biggest issue.
He can't kick it. He can't kick it for them.
Yeah, true. Mm.
VB though, on the other hand, our midfield is getting torched lately, so I wouldn't mind that.
Yeah, and VB's got to take the blame for it because we are obviously setting up the way that he's asking us to set up, and it's wrong the way we're setting up.
Yeah, he's very inexperienced because he just coached for was it West Coast, and then he came straight back to us, and he didn't have that much experience.
He's not inexperienced. He was coaching them when they won a flag.
Mm.
Yeah, but he wasn't the main coach, was he? Because I feel like he was just
midfield coach.
Ah, okay, yeah, my bad. Because I thought he was just like like a side kind of assistant coach, not the actual like midfield one. My next thing I was going to ask you guys: do you think I should go to the game like a side kind of assistant coach, not the actual like midfield one? My next thing I was going to ask you guys: do you think I should go to the game like a side kind of assistant coach?
Where in Geelong?
Not the actual like midfield one. Yep, in Geelong. My next thing I was going to ask you guys: do you think I should go to the game like a side?
I don't know, mate. Where in Geelong? You're a big boy. You can work it out.
I'm scared to go, but I want to go.
I don't know, mate. Where in Geelong?
We're
looking.
I'm scared to go, but I want to go.
I don't know.
Phoenix, we're looping.
I'm scared to
What?
go, but I want to go.
We're in a loop.
Yeah,
Phoenix,
but I just like
we're looping.
I'm hoping.
What?
In a sound loop.
Thanks, mate.
Phoenix,
But I just like
we're looping.
I'm hoping.
Macro, I don't know what you're talking about.
In a sound loop. A sound loop.
But I just like
We're looping.
I'm hoping.
Macro, I don't know what you're talking about. Are we
In a
back
sound
now?
loop.
Are we right now?
A sound loop.
But I just like
We're looping.
I'm hoping.
Macro, I don't know what you're talking about. Are we
In a
back
sound
now?
loop.
Are we right now?
A sound loop.
But I just like
We're looping.
I'm hoping.
Macro, I don't know what. How about now? Is that better?
Yes.
I don't
It
know
was
what
just
to do.
going around and around and around the same words.
Okay, all right. Don't panic. Carry on. Animal, back on. How are you, mate? Oh, God. Animal, I don't know what's going on with you guys, but that's enough of that. let's move on. Let's look at the team stats, shall we? Disposals 367 to 355, 228 kicks to 208, handballs 139 to 147, inside 50s 52 to 46. Disposal efficiency, they were burning the ball a bit up until it mattered. But our efficiency wasn't too bad, but I felt as the game wore on and they put more pressure on us, our disposal efficiency dropped off, Mac. Free kicks 28 to 18. I must admit, I was almost embarrassed by some of the free kicks we got. We can certainly not complain about the umpires this week.
No, I thought we got maybe a half a dozen at least that I couldn't even see.
Yeah, and they didn't pay a few that they should have to Collingwood. So
Really a bad one over the shoulder right in the Collingwood goal square in the last quarter.
Yeah,
which would have been a goal.
Just keep talking for a sec, mate.
Yeah, well, overall, I thought that the umpires gave us a good run. I think most of the decisions that were there were paid, and I thought we got a few bonus ones thrown in. And several times I thought we could have gone for holding the ball, and we didn't. So overall, we can't blame the umpires. We can only blame ourselves. The way we played, firstly, missing shots that we should have kicked. And then, secondly, not having the courage to play positively rather than try and defend. Because eventually, if you just try to defend, eventually you're going to get caught out.
Yeah, that's true. I'm just removing some idiot that's on our chat.
Yeah, that's fair enough. So the other one was saying about, I saw that.
Yeah, so that's fine.
We don't need that.
No. All right. Is
that another smarty there?
No, I can.
We beat you as well. I don't want to hear nothing somebody says.
Same person. Don't worry about it. All right. Hit outs 52 to 27. Had a real have a look at that 52 to 27 hit outs, Mac, and yet we lost clearances 25 to 46. Talk to me about that.
It's again this business where they keep one out. We all go in like mad. Chooks, we throw the grain in, the chips run into in the chook yard. That's us. Whereas they keep one on the outside, and while we're wrestling away from the ball, they either tap it out, knock it out, handball it, whatever. And then they have their halfbacks running past, or whichever line that is nearest, and they get a very quick movement forward. Whereas when we get a centre bounce clearance, we don't have that sort of structure. We're all there fighting away, and then we usually generally get a bit of a blind kick forward. So it was very clearly that you could see it. When they lined up for every bounce, they had one player back. You could see it very clearly. And it just got them the clearances every time.
So, I mean, we've said for basically or for a season and a half, really, or for even longer, that O'Brien's ruck work isn't the best, particularly at centre. He's not as bad around stoppage, but certainly centre clearances, his rucking is very one-dimensional. But that he is what he is, right? And the one thing that O'Brien is very predictable, right? We've said this before. So why aren't we setting up in a way that at least negates other teams being able to read him?
Well, because we don't have anybody out waiting. We've got everybody going in.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is why are we doing that? Well, that's a coaching deficiency, right?
It's got to go back to Van Berle, because he's if you're the midfield coach, you're the one that tells them what the setups are going to be, and they're not going to defy him every set about. So they're doing what they've been told to do. Why? I don't know. To me, it's just wrong. You can see it.
Yeah, and they go through tapes and every Monday or whenever, and they go through hours and hours of looking at opposition and all the rest of it. How much analysis can they not be doing on our own centre work? Because they're either not implementing what's being asked of them, or they're not being asked to do the right thing. It's happening too regularly now.
And it will that happens in most games. Certainly against sides that are thinking, where their coach is thinking they have that loose one back. Carlton tend to do that a bit too as well.
Well, I mean, it's happened to us 2 weeks in a row now. Walpole got us for Hawthorn, and we got done again this week against Collingwood. It's happening regularly. We know where. I mean, you and I could rove to Riley O'Brien, mate, because we know where the ball was going to go. I just don't understand why this continually happens.
Well, I can't give you an answer to it because I have the same quandary as you, wondering why this keeps reoccurring when it's obvious.
Yep. Anyway, so that was a big problem in my opinion because they got first use so often, and it was critical in the last quarter when they were coming back. I think they had the first 6 clearances out of centre or whatever, and it was a bit of a procession. I haven't seen us get belted around stoppage clearances as much as we did though, Mac. And
no,
it was what you said at the beginning that they always had a player at the back, and partly because we were actually letting them have one extra at the contest.
Yes, yeah, that's exactly what did happen.
All right, contested possessions were even 143 to 142, uncontested 211 to 199. Turnovers, we certainly made them turn the ball over a lot more for the majority of the game, which is why it's such a shame that we didn't take advantage of that more. We had more of the possession marks, 105 to 72. Marks inside 59 to 7. Contested marks 17 to 4. I think we were 41 to 14 marks at, was it quarter time or half time? I think it was quarter time. 41 to 14 marks. Well,
we were using, which I thought was pretty good tactics actually. Rather than trying to attack down one side, we'd switch sides. We go back through the centre, then back to the other side. So there was an opening, and then we'd get an attack through that. And that's why we were down there in our forward line so often. So I thought that part of our game was good. But, then we just wasted it once we had the opportunities to have shots at goal.
Yep. Look at this. This is time in front. 109.55 to us, 30 seconds for them.
Yep.
Oh, don't it break your heart. Tackles 56 to 74. I felt like that's because they were chasing us on the outside for quite a bit of the game. Tackles inside 58 to 13. 1% is relatively even. Look, I think it was relatively simple to analyse this game. You didn't really need to look at the stats. After quarter time, we were doing very well in the first quarter of hitting up at 45 metres out. So we weren't bombing it into Darcy Moore when we were getting the ball. We were hitting it up short. And, that's why Pedler and Rochelle, etc. were having pings at goal. Shots that they should have kicked. But Collingwood adapted to that after quarter time, Macca, and we didn't seem to have a plan B for our forward 50 entries. And, as the game progressed, we just started going back to our usual long bomb. It didn't feel like we had any alternatives. I would have liked to have seen Nix pull their tools out of our forward 50 and gone one out with Rankin for a while. I don't think he tried enough in our forward 50. Once Collingwood understood what we were doing, Nix didn't try to change that up.
No, I agree.
Thanks. All right. The other thing, obviously, that didn't happen is that in the last quarter, I don't feel like we took the game on, Mac.
Well, that was real. I was really angry about that because we were so what's the word? So consumed by defence in the sense that we threw virtually all of our players back. I was trying to see what would happen if we ever did get the ball somewhere in possession around the wing. Well, there was nobody. There was probably about 3 Collingwood defenders and maybe 1 forward. And we were just consumed with defence. Well, if they're on top, they're running on top of the ground and we're trying to fight like crazy to hold them out. You make a mistake, they get a goal. So, whereas if you're actually playing a football game where you actually try and attack as much as you do defend, you release a 50-50 chance you might score. And if we had scored 1 or 2 goals in that quarter, it would have been very, very handy, and we would have won the game.
Well, here's the thing: if you're behind by 4 or 5 goals, then you start playing with nothing to lose, right? So, and it was pointed out in the commentary that Collingwood were just kicking to space, just kicking to grass, just trying to get the ball on the outside so they could generate some run. What they didn't want it to be is congested, so they would get the ball and just kick it to grass, and then bank on their foot speed to get the ball forward. They were also playing the conditions better by soccering and knocking on, and I felt like we overused the ball a little bit at times during the game. But you know as well as I do that when you're playing with nothing to lose, all of a sudden you're not worried about making errors. It's almost expected that you will. So the pressure is actually off you, and as an opponent that's in front, when you've got a team coming at you that's not playing with any fear, because they're already behind. If they lose, well, they're going to lose anyway, right? What's happening is a lot of those opponents are running ahead of the ball, right? And so when you turn the ball over, you've got to come back at them. You've got to take advantage of the fact that they've all run forward of the ball and all out of position. What we were doing was slowing it right down across half back and allowing them to get back into flooding our transition, forcing us to go up and down the line, forcing us to go slow, forcing us to take risks when we eventually did pass the ball off, because we weren't prepared to move the ball quickly when we turned it over. Now,
well, that is the problem too, because that meant by doing it slowly, it's going to be predictable where we're kicking it to every time.
Well, and this is the thing, right? So the only way to beat an attacking team, because let's face it, Collingwood are a good team, and they're going to come at you. We would have known that. They've shown that all season that they're not going to stop coming at you. So it was, again, up to the coaching staff, in my opinion, to give the players license to win the game rather than save the game. And to me, we played that whole last quarter just trying to hang on to our lead, and it was never going to work. Never, ever does that work. It never works.
No, I said that to Mrs. Macker. When we had nobody really attacking, anybody trying to defend, just saying, we were at okay last corral, just trying to hang on. We're not even trying to score, and the best way we could hurt them is if we played some attacking football and scored, because then that just makes their job a little bit harder.
Yeah, that's right. So, I'm hoping that the coaches take a bit of learning out of the game as well as the players, because I don't think we coach very well from the box. I really don't.
Well, the question for you, Thane, is did you agree with who was subbed off and who was subbed on?
Well, I mean, I can't disagree with who was subbed on because there's only one player to sub on. My understanding is that Saligo got subbed off because he caught one in the back in a marking contest. If it was actually because they just wanted to get Harry on and get Jake off, then I'd think it was a terrible decision.
Well, that's why I asked the question, because I don't know why Saligo was chosen, because I thought he was definitely our best 5 players at that stage.
Yeah, well, I have a feeling that he got crunched in he backed into a marking contest and got crunched, and that's why he got subbed off.
Well, if that was the case, then fair enough. But
Andrew's saying that Nick's in his presser says they subbed him off for fresh legs. If they subbed Jake Saligo off for fresh legs, then that was a howler, an absolute howler.
Well, that's what I wanted to know, because to me, Schonberg's not worthy to be mentioned the same name as Saligo. Schonberg did nothing when he came on.
Well, I mean, he got a couple of touches, but he was also complicit in the end of dishing the ball out to the corridor and allowing Collingwood to pick it up in space. So, look, to be honest with you, a big ask for Harry to come in and try to play quality midfield minutes at the death in a game like that. But he's not that kind of player, in my opinion. I would have been taking Wayne Miller off. And quite frankly, I've had a gutful of Wayne Miller.
It's soft, isn't he?
It's not just that he's soft, Macca. He does nothing. What does he offer us?
Look, he can look good when he's gets the ball and there's a nice, neat, quick kick on somebody's chest, but that's all without a contest. It's not too good when there's a fierce contest.
But it's not even about that. It's not even about him being soft. He is actually not interested in hard contests, right? The amount of times I just saw him just hanging outside the pack, not at any stage committing to anything. He's supposed to be a running halfback. He's supposed to give us drive off halfback. All he does when he gets the ball is kicks it short. He plays it safe all the time. He doesn't give us anything. And I think he needs to be shafted out, to be honest with you. And I would have much rather have seen them take Miller off and done a bit of a rejig. If they were going to put Geordie across half-back, they could have taken Miller off and left Saligo in the rotations, in my opinion.
Yep, I agree with that. Actually, a lot of people said that, and I noticed in the chat that Miller should have been the one subbed off, not Saligo.
I'd just probably mention to the Collingwood people that are coming on and trolling on the chat, out of all the games that we've played this year and even last year, you guys are the only ones that have ever thought that it would be a reasonable idea to come on and troll a Crow's podcast. So, yeah, not real smart. Look, let's run through some individual stats because there were some good performers, Macca, despite the loss. Look, what do you think of Geordie's game, Jordan Dawson?
I thought he was best on ground for us. I thought he was fantastic. Yeah. He I think he had 30 possessions, and of those, 14 were contested, and I mean genuinely contested possessions. I thought Geordie gave his heart and soul for us.
Oh, no doubting that he put in a good effort. He had 30 disposals, 21 kicks, 9 handballs, 3 marks, 5 tackles. He had 14 contested possessions, 12 uncontested, 7 turnovers, Macca. 7 turnovers.
Under a lot of pressure, yeah.
6 intercept possession. The stat that's gone down for him over the last couple of weeks is this one here. He's not getting involved in scoring chains as much as what he was earlier in the season. And you know, one of the things about moving Jordan into a more midfield position was that we needed him to be able to direct the ball into our forward 50. But I'm finding that he's still getting a fair bit of the ball behind centre, Macca, and he's not actually being that player to be the kicker into the forward 50. And he's been worked out pretty quickly, and he's going to have to, along with the coaching staff, work through it, because at the moment, for all his efforts, we're not getting a lot of reward from him.
No, in fairness to him, he is the one that they concentrate on, and Laird's benefiting from it in the sense that he was one that they used to always sit on, but since Dawson's got there, he's the one that they really sit on. So
yeah,
and which makes it, and that's one of the reasons why. Look, perhaps he wasn't my best, but I thought I had him up in our best players. Put it that way.
Oh, so you're backtracking now?
A little bit. Just a little bit, because
696 metres gained. He got 5 clearances, 1 out of centre and 4 at stoppage, 5 tackles, 7 inside 50s, 4 rebound 50s. So for those 7 inside 50s, he was only involved in 3 He was only involved in 3 scores.
Yeah, I still think he's right up there though, Fane.
No, I'm just saying that's quite an interesting statistic that he had 7 inside 50s. we've seen before that when Geordie has 7 inside 50s, normally 5 or 6 of those will result in in scores. And interesting that today only 3 of them resulted in scores.
No, but we're normally not playing a team like Collingwood, who has got a top midfielder, and they play it hard and tough. And they really sat on him as well.
Or maybe he wasn't kicking the ball well into the forward 50, Mac.
Well, I can remember some of the times he was had players hanging all over when he was actually kicking the ball, so that doesn't help. But
not when he was kicking it into forward 50, Macca.
I can remember 2 or 3 that times it was. But yeah, that's not neither here nor there.
All right, Lairdy, I thought, given that he was under an injury cloud, played particularly well. 29 disposals, 13 kicks, 16 handballs, 7 marks, 4 tackles. He had 10 contested possessions, 18 uncontested possessions, turned it over 5 times, 4 intercepts, took 7 marks, all uncontested. Only 182 metres gained. He was really in and under player. Only the 2 clearances, Mac. 1 out of centre, 1 in stoppage, 4 tackles, 1 inside 50. His clearance work is down.
It certainly was. It certainly was. He was getting the ball more in field play than he was in clearances, and also I think he's well down on tackles too, wasn't he, Fane?
Hang on a sec. Tackles he had 4.
Yeah, well down on tackles. I mean, sometimes has 14.
Yeah.
He played a slightly different role. He was Jordan Dawson was the main man that they were targeting, and so he was more trying to get out in the open, and he was sort of playing in between half forward and half back type of thing.
The thing is, it seems to me that we've got a very limited midfield in that it's Laird and Dawson, and whoever's in that third spot is almost like a bit player, like a very defensive midfielder, and I don't know whether that works. That's, to me, all 3 of your midfielders have got to be able to work both ways. You've got to be able to read the tap. You've got to be able to understand where the ball is and understand where your opponent is. And I think just to have a 1-2 sort of situation like Laird and Dawson, to me, is just too one-dimensional.
Well, that's true. You need that burst player, and well, I think they rotated Saligo through there. They rotated Rochelle through there. I don't know whether Keys went through there at all, but I think they were the main 2 that were going through there.
Yeah. Jakey Saligo, 24 disposals before he was subbed, 10 and 14. 6 marks, 3 tackles, kicked it behind. He had 13 contested possessions, 11 uncontested. Contrary to a lot of people saying otherwise, he only had 3 turnovers, 6 intercept possessions. He was involved in 7 scores. He was one of the reasons why we were able to get the ball to the outside in that first half, Mac. I felt like he was playing a really good role as that first receiver in our transition, and I thought he was playing really well. I was dead set surprised to see that he got dropped off.
Well, I agree with you. In fact, I probably would, at the stage when he went off the ground, I'd probably had him very close to our best player, because for the very reason that you just said. I thought he played a terrific game. And, he's fearless, and he earns hard balls. He doesn't just earn gift balls. He's a very courageous kid, and I thought he played an outstanding game until he went off.
Yeah. Another one who showed real courage, I thought, again, was Chase Jones. 20 disposals, 15 and 5. 1 mark, 4 tackles, kicked 2 goals, 2. He had 12 uncontested possessions and 6 contested. Didn't turn the ball over. Had 4 intercepts. 6 score involvements. Had 409 metres gained. Interestingly, even though he didn't have a centre bounce attendance, he had a centre clearance, so I don't know how that works. 4 tackles, 4 inside 50s. He got better as the game went on and was instrumental in keeping us in it, towards the back end of the third quarter.
Yeah, up to three-quarter time, I thought he played an excellent game. Excellent game. In the last quarter, not too many people did play an excellent game for us because we were just more involved in trying to spoil and stop rather than having any flow in the game.
Yeah. Look, aside from that, I felt like Josh Rochelle started like a house on fire. 18 disposals, 12 kicks, 6 handballs, 6 marks, 2 tackles, but kicked 4 behinds, Mac.
Yeah, disappointingly so, because some of those should have been goals.
Yes, that's right. 6 contested, 13 uncontested, 4 turnovers. He was involved in 6 scores, 281 metres gained, a couple of tackles. He's a young player. He's going to make those sort of mistakes. I don't have any problem with him trying to take the game on and be a key player in the game, but I think at times he's a bit tunnel visioned at the moment.
Yeah, look, he hasn't played all that many games. When we added up,
No, that's what I said.
And that shows that once he's got another season or two in him, I don't think he'll be making those type of mistakes.
No, yeah. I 100% agree.
Yeah, at the moment he just sees glory and does that without thinking, rather than thinking too.
Yeah, and I don't want anyone to suppress that out of his game, because there'll be times when he will win games for us.
Yeah.
Look, Rory Sloane, I thought again. When the whips were cracking, he was right there. 18 disposals, 11 kicks, 7 handballs, 4 marks, 6 tackles, kicked a crucial goal. 7 contested, 9 uncontested, only turned it over once. Took 4 marks, 3 of them uncontested, 326 metres gained, 3 clearances from 7 centre bounce, 3 stoppage clearances, 6 tackles, 2 of them inside 50, had 4 inside 50s. Just another good game from Rory, and he's ticking over nicely at the moment.
Well, the rougher the game, the better Rory goes, actually, because he's not a sprinter these days at age 33 and coming back from a knee injury. But look, he's brave and he's courageous, and I thought that he does what he's certainly doing. He's pulling his weight.
Oh, he's doing more than pulling his weight, Macca.
Well, yeah, what I'm saying, he's winning his position.
Yeah, but it's more than that.
Yeah, I know he sets a very good example to the younger players.
I mean, some of those efforts on the outer side, when he, like that double tackle that he did on the outer side, another tackle. Yeah. I mean, that's more than pulling your weight. That's picking the side up on your back.
Well, yeah, that's true. Like he did with that goal, for example. Everybody's missing bloody goals, and Rory calmly put it through. Yeah, you're right.
I mean, I've been happy to say, that Sloane's time was over and all the rest of it. So I think it's important that we recognise the fact that he's proved us all wrong, and he's a real key player in this team this year.
He has proved us wrong. We both thought that he was probably shouldn't have played another year, but no. Look, he's one of the greats of the club. He really is one of the greats of the club, and he still is.
Yep, 100%. Nick Murray, I thought, was the best of our defenders, Mac, and also had 15 disposals, 11 and 4. I just feel like he's really progressed. Took 5 marks, 2 tackles. Only turned it over a couple of times, 6 intercept marks, 2 score involvements, 258 metres gained, a couple of tackles, 6 rebound 50s. He's now he's the sort of modern defender that you want now. Hard at it, can shut down a big player, but also was very good on Johnson. as well, who's only a medium-sized tall and didn't really make too many mistakes, I didn't think.
Murray has developed into possibly our best defender in the even better than Duday in terms of the importance. He takes a very good player all the time, and he's just so physical. He can either marks it, spoils it, but then he follows up as well. And I wouldn't like to stand him. He's a very physical guy, and he's turned out to be a gem.
Yeah, absolutely. Conversely, Geordie Butts is in a bit of a funk, isn't he, at the moment?
Oh God! I mean, he is. For example, that kick, I can't believe any AFL player could do that kick that he did at that stage of the game.
I'll tell you how it happened. I'll tell you how it happened. You go back and have a look, and I'll tell you exactly how it happened, Macca. He spots a player, but he's so deliberate with his kick that he actually takes his eye away from his target, and it's a good 2 seconds. Good 2 seconds between him taking his eye off his target and him actually kicking the ball, because he watches it like he's down looking at his foot for a good 2.5 seconds. That's how it happens.
Spot on, absolutely spot on. He looked, and by the time he's not the speediest guy in the world, and as you say, it probably took 2 seconds at least in that time for him to kick the ball. And of course, a lot happens in 2 seconds when a guy's running to cover somebody.
Yeah. A lot of people saying, he only had the one bad turnover. Well, it was a bad turnover, but there were some other things that he didn't do particularly well. Anyway, we've talked about Miller already. I don't want to talk any more about him. Riley Thilthorpe snuck in and had a pretty decent game, particularly after half-time, Macca. 15 disposals, 10 and 5, 7 marks, kicked a point that shouldn't have been a point. 12 contested possessions, 2 uncontested, 3 intercept possessions, 3 score involvements, 6 contested marks, Mac. He's really starting to clunk them when he gets there. He just doesn't get to it enough, for my liking.
No, but I like the way his graph's going, though, Fiend. If you enjoy it, definitely an upward graph at the moment. He's now, he started off and he had that boom game in the first game, and then he never really sort of followed it up. But he's doing the forward ruck roll, and he's starting to clunk those marks. And as you say, I think they were all contested, those 7 marks, weren't they?
6 of them.
6 of them, yeah. And if he keeps progressing at his current rate, like in a maybe give it 2 years, he's going to be a bloody champion, because he's got all the attributes, and he's very much a confidence player, and I think his draft's on the up.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Of the rest, Luke Pedler flashed in and out of the game. Lockie Murphy similar. Max Michaelani was solid once again down back. Didn't do a lot wrong. Ben Keys, I think he was. It was never a hard tag on Dacos, and when Dacos got injured, they dropped that off a bit. So he got burnt a bit. Ben Keys, he could have had a couple, but got burnt a bit.
Should have had at least 2 or 3, because he worked bloody hard to get into that position there where you could have just kicked it to him and got an open goal. But no, they had their bloody shots and missed.
So I'll put this to you, because I thought Darcy and Tex had average gains, Macca, and Riley did most of his work up the ground. Did we go in too tall for the conditions?
In hindsight, yes. We did. Because between Darcy and Tex, we didn't even really get half a game out of them, really. So, yeah, we would have been better off with a more mobile forward line.
Yeah, and I think they made a mistake having Harry as sub. I would have stayed with Ned McHenry, to be honest with you. I don't think Ned had done a huge amount wrong, and it was always going to be a pressure game in damp conditions, a game made for Ned McHenry. And I actually think the coaching staff have had a stinker for this game.
Yep, agreed. Totally agree.
So, So Sam Berry in the twos had a good game, so that's good to hear. Hopefully he's starting to turn his form around a bit and find some fitness, and I reckon we could really use Sam in that midfield rotation just to change things up a little bit, because he's a bit like Laird, except that he can actually get through congestion when he's on song. Sam Berry's got great strength through the legs and core, so and I think that's what we're lacking at the moment. We're sort of flicking the ball around rather than being able to break through congestion.
At his best, he is a burst player, and he can get, as you say, he can burst his way through the pack and get the ball in there very quickly, which always gives you an opportunity to get a goal. So he apparently had a good game in the twos. Is that right?
Yeah, not bad. Like probably his best game for a while. I think he 1990 saying he faded after halftime. I stopped watching after halftime, but he looked okay to me.
He may need another one in the twos, but then he wouldn't be far off getting back in the side.
Yeah. Worrell's another one. Parnell, I don't see a lot of Parnell today, but I'd rather have him in the bloody side instead of Miller. I'd rather have you on the side than Miller, Macca, to be honest.
Well, I think Parnell will probably do the better job. Seriously, I'm with you, Miller. I'm not a Miller fan, and I certainly would make a change and bring in Parnell for him. I know he's a little bit smaller, but he's more gutsier and courageous and contest, and he's very good disposal. And I won't knock Miller for his disposal, but it's just for his overall courage, really.
Yeah. The last player I just want to touch on real quickly is Isaac Rankin, Mac. So 13 disposals, 7 and 6, 3 marks, 5 tackles, kicked 1 goal, 2, including an absolute howler that he could have either given off or should have just kicked the damn thing. 8 contested possessions, 6 uncontested, 2 turnovers, 4 score involvements, 191 metres gained. He had 4 clearances, 3 around stoppage, 5 tackles, 2 inside 50s. I don't know what to make of his game, to be honest with you.
Useful. It was a useful game, but not without. If he turned it into 1 or 2 more goals, then we would have said he played a good game. And I think, quite frankly, just if you want to be really nasty, you could say that running into the open goal and missing it, well, when he should have kicked it or either handballed it and got a goal, was so costly. That one in particular was so costly. That's when the whole side goes, oh, well, I won't say what they said when they're thinking, but
100%, yeah.
There's that type of one is just so costly. Look, I thought that if he had have kicked a couple of goals that he could have got, then we will be saying, yeah, not a great game, but it was a handy game. Because he missed it, well, he was just a bit off.
I would have actually liked to have seen him involved a bit more in centre work.
Yeah, that would be good.
I've said that for a couple of weeks. I just feel like we're a bit one-paced in there, and like, you know, Jake Saligo did quite well when he was in there, but I feel like we could use a bit of Rankin's zip and dancing feet and agility through there at times.
Yeah, the dancing feet thing is very relevant because there's nobody else dancing in there at the moment. So, no, he's got the ability to twist, turn, go, make it think he's going one way when he goes the other way. So, yeah, I think he should have been used there at times. Yeah.
Anyway, look, you know, we can't dismiss the fact that we fell within a point of the form team of the competition. We wasted opportunities. You know, I really am a bit dark with the coaching staff because I feel like we were set up to fail a fair bit. We have got one of the most potent forward lines in the competition, and for us to only kick 58 points, to me, irrespective of the accuracy, to me, says that we're not utilising our strength. And as I said a few minutes ago, I felt like once they cottoned on to the fact that we were hitting up and trying to avoid Darcy Moore, we didn't seem to have a second option. And I just feel like it was a chance for us to really exploit Collingwood. They were without Pendlebury. They didn't have a ruckman, and we've got a lot of options up forward, and I just didn't feel like we exploited that, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think it all comes back to the centre, though. Mate. And, if you look at the clearances, they tell the story anyhow. If we sort of even broke even on the clearances, we still would have won the game. And if we'd kicked straight, we still could have won the game. So, in spite of like coaching blues, in spite of this, in spite of that, at the end of the day, the greatest enemy was ourselves with our kicking for goal.
Very true, Macca. And dare I say it, it's not going to get any easier next week.
I'm not looking forward to that one. We're going to Alphabet, aren't we?
Yeah, so we're at Alphabet 1:40 on Saturday next week. And
Right.
that should be quite an interesting game. Geelong back in form, obviously, and risen quite steeply up the ladder. So, we haven't won there since I think you were playing, Max. So that's quite some time ago.
Well, and we won't be winning again on Saturday. I can't see it because Geelong they are right back in form at the moment, and it's a horrible ground to play on, and most teams don't handle it very, very well. And you've got these, I don't know, how many holds about 40,000 rabid. Oh, I can't. Better not be too derogatory, but supporters there. It's a hard ground to win on. Not many people do.
Look, and Mac, this is a tough stretch for us. We've got Geelong over there, then we've got St Kilda at home, then we've got the Bulldogs at Mars. It's an interesting 4-game stretch. Would have been really handy to have picked one of these off, like the first one off today. But what's your pass mark?
Well, I think I think we should beat both I think you said St Kilda and the Bulldogs after Geelong.
Yeah, Geelong Saints and Bulldogs.
If we are going to be a side that's going to make the 8, then we have to win those 2 games.
Saints and Bulldogs?
Yep. I've conceded Geelong.
Yeah, and then we've got the Lions at home as well after that.
Lions are very, very... if you're playing up in Brisbane, I'd say no, not much chance because they don't lose very often up there. But they're vulnerable when they travel. So I still think we've got a show against them as well.
So what's your pass mark out of those 5, including today? So we're zip 1 of this 5-game block. What's your pass mark?
I would say we've got to win at least 2 for a pass, and if you want to pass with a big tick alongside it, 3.
Yeah, I'm the same as you. I would like to see us win the games that we're playing at home, which is St Kilda and Brisbane. And it'd be really nice to jag one of Geelong and Western Bulldogs. The Bulldogs one is the more gettable one. We've beaten them there before at Mars.
We have.
I'll tell you what, we're getting a stinker of a bloody fixture. We've been to Tassie, we're going to Cardinia Park, we're going to Mars. Bloody hell.
Yeah, it was actually when the fixtures were released, it was... someone did a summary of it, and we travel to more ground than anybody else does.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. Northern Territory as well, Vardy, you're right. So anyway, look, I think 2 out of the 5 I think is okay, and keeps us in touch with a slightly easier run coming in, with maybe jagging our final spot. If we get an extra one, that'll be a bonus, I think.
Yeah, I know we've all been doom and gloom, but there is a positive out of today. Is that as we say, Collingwood, they're right up there. In fact, they're on top of the ladder, and really, we should have beaten them, and it was we who beat ourselves, not them.
Yeah, 100%. And, this is part of the journey, and that's, you asked me how I was at the beginning, Mac, and I said probably not as pissed off as Simon. That's because this is part of the journey. We're not winning a flag this year.
No.
We need to go through these fixtures, and we need to learn how to win, and we need to build confidence, and we need to be able to be aggressive in these situations. We failed today. Not only players but coaches failed today, but they'll learn from it. And it's not one of those situations where, like, if you read big footy threads, sometimes you think the world is caving in. They had a heartbreaking loss where, even though they did a lot wrong, Macca, they were in the game for all but 30 seconds.
Yeah, exactly right. And, they'd all be sitting out after the game thinking, if only I'd done this, if only I'd done that, without the coaches telling it. They'd all know that their own little bit of stuff up cost us the game.
Yep. All right, Mac. Just before we go, just a reminder to people that if you're listening on YouTube and you haven't subscribed us yet, please consider giving us a subscribe. That would be lovely. Helps us out with a whole bunch of things, and also give us a like. Next week we are back at the normal time. So thanks everyone for joining us on Discord and on YouTube. Your support is really appreciated as usual. Another strong audience tonight, Macca, and another strong viewership on YouTube. Good stuff.
Yep. We live to fight another day. I think that we'll be fighting hard this week, but that's to be expected. And at least I hope the boys put up a good show, and don't expect them to win, but at least give it their best. And then I think after that, then I think we can, as you say, get 2 of that 4, and maybe even 3 of that 4, and then we're back on track again.
That's right. All right, mate. Well, look, thanks everyone for joining us tonight. Have a safe week, and we will see you next Sunday for another weekend wrap. Good night, everyone.
Yeah, and thanks everybody for coming after the loss. Catch you guys. See ya.